We got it for you. They're going to lock up again today. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. And we got the clash is going to hit again. A'ja Wilson versus Caitlin And man, oh man, I tell you what. This one here, we got to fight the fire with the fire. And we got to fight the focus with the focus. And what do I mean by that? You got two great players are going to match up, but one of them's coming in greater than the other. And and that player I'm talking about is A'ja Wilson. And when you look at A'ja Wilson, and I had an opportunity to watch her several times this season, and the number one thing that I see with A'ja Wilson, one, she's like Floyd Mayweather, okay, that separates her. What separates you from the competition? Well, when you get involved with A'ja Wilson, I'll tell you this much, that she's in the best conditioning of any athlete I see playing in the WNBA today. Now, what does that mean? When you're a post, you got to giddy up, down that court, up and down. You got to run the floor. A'ja Wilson sets herself apart. There's no doubt about that. And the way she plays, it's really interesting. I mean, she's basically saying I can do it on the inside and the outside, but really, I think she has more fun on the perimeter. The shooting touch from about 15 to 17 feet. Opponents don't know how to deal with that, and that's something that gets a little bit ahead of itself, because when you're trying to stop an opponent and you're looking at somebody like you got A'ja Wilson, who actually has size over everyone, not just someone, has size over everyone. Second thing, the science of basketball, the theory of the excellence of left-handed players. And you got quite a few left-handers that are in the WNBA that are taking charge. One I truly enjoy. Well, she's got a couple on her team, but the science of left hand. Okay, and here's what we're talking about, and we got a big-time showdown. It's gonna hit again. The first one, game one, there's no doubt about it, went to the Aces. And A'ja Wilson set the tone for that, came out, caught fire, and there's nothing anybody could do about it, right? So, but A'ja Wilson is a different breed. When you look at it and say, okay, what's her capability? What could she do? Well, you got to put it there, and you got to look at who does she play for, right? And we'll get into this one a little bit later in the show, but plays for Becky Hammon. Now, when you talk about Becky Hammon, you got to think about that. Okay, you got to think about Becky Hammon. Who is Becky Hammon, and what has Becky Hammon done, and where does she come from, right? So when I look at that and I say, okay, who is Becky Hammon? Well, Becky Hammon came into the WNBA undrafted, okay? So there's never been anything given to her, and she's not letting anything be given to A'ja Wilson, right? But Becky Hammon has made a tour, has been to all WNBA, All-Star, you name it, undrafted, and worked up there with Spurs' Greg Popovich. Now, you got to understand, what does that mean? When you go in there and you got a ball game like you got tonight, and you're looking at two top-tier players, right? You got two top-tier players who are going to square this thing up, but you got a little bit of a coaching pedigree. One is extensively long, back-to-back champions in the WNBA, and you got the other that is just starting their career and getting going. So, but neither here or there. That's not going to change anything. You got Caitlin Clark on the floor. Came out the other night and couldn't get going. But the interesting thing, I watched the game, went back, and I noticed A'ja Wilson lit it up. Okay. Right out the gate, scored the first 10 points. Nobody else can score. They got them locked up. There's only one position they can't lock up, and that's A'ja Wilson. Now, I called it an MVP showdown. It looks like one MVP showed up. Caitlin Clark shot it 1 for 10. There's no doubt about it. But the court presence, here's where I'm going with this, folks. The court presence of A'ja Wilson is tremendous. I mean, tremendous, because you got a player that when they come downhill, nobody wants to take that charge, right? And you got a couple times I've seen been challenged. Camila Cardoso has challenged her a couple times. But, most of all, I mean, the player can score 40 points. Player could score 30 and a quarter. when you got the conditioning, okay, here's the thing you got to realize. You got the conditioning to take 30 shots in a game. Because, I've challenged a lot of players over the year to go out there and let me see you shoot the ball 30 times. And let's see how much conditioning you got. Because to shoot it that many times and not to be a one-way player, you got to understand that A'ja Wilson is a two-way. Okay, so she's jumping in there. She's saying, look, I'm going to get you 28 a game, 27, 28 a game. I'm going to go get you 12 rebounds. And then I'm going to bounce back on top of that. I'll average 3 blocks. And that's an average, 2.75 to 3 blocks a game. But if I get hot, I might get you 6 or 7. You never know. Because you got a heart of a secretariat. It looks like the blood that's pumping through A'ja Wilson's heart is much bigger than any other player in the sport of the WNBA, I believe. And when I look at this, and I look at it a couple different ways. I mean, you're doing everything the right way for A'ja Wilson, back-to-back MVP, coming in there, dominating the game. And when I look at it, and I always look at the organization, well, you got Mark Davis. Okay, there's no doubt about that. And you also want to back that up, not just necessarily saying Mark Davis. You're going to go to Becky Hammon. Now, you talk about championships floating around. I mean, you got Becky Hammon coming under Greg Popovich. You're going to look at that and go, well, how many championships, they got over there at San Antonio Spurs? They got a ton of them, right? So then you're going to bounce that back. The Raiders got them. You got Tom Brady in there. And now you're coming in there. They're already back to back, right? And they're not going to peak until it's time to peak. But the number one thing that I noticed that the Las Vegas Aces have, they got dominance with A'ja Wilson. They got dominance in the bench players. The bench players come off and play really well. But when you look at A'ja Wilson, you got to look at it. Okay, who's managed? I always tell you, got XL Sports is going to manage Caitlinclark. And, they also got Chris Rivers over there. But then you take A'ja Wilson, understand you got Nike, but you got Clutch. Okay, you got Clutch representing that. They got a WNBA portfolio. And when you look at Clutch, you got the best of the best. That's the leader of the pack. There's nobody that's running close with that. And, when you start talking about training, you got Calvin Andrews over there, who I know and been around basketball a long time, and how they handle athletes, what they do in preparation. I mean, you got to commend when you get to that and get to A'ja Wilson. And you can see the difference on the court. And you got 2 top management agencies, Clutch Sports, and you also got, you're looking at XL Sports that are managing, right? You got 2 of these transitional, generational athletes playing the game of basketball, and they're doing it at a high level. Let's understand that. But you got the Fever getting ready to enter in. They're going to play again today. This is home and home. But A'ja Wilson's dominated. A'ja Wilson has just about dominated everybody in the league. There's nobody that's come close to doing that. And her career accomplishments, MVP, you name it, champion, she's done it. I mean, if you look at go to the Hall of Fame room, she's probably got in there. It's going to build it out. But she's got more awards than you could shake a stick at, but that doesn't really motivate her. Every time somebody says you can't do something, she goes out and does it. Now, that's a different kind of athlete. Now, and when you look at it, when the other players couldn't get going, she could get going. And the Fever were playing phenomenal defense. I mean, they did a great job scouting it out. They just couldn't hold it because you got somebody that's really just going in the game saying, I'll shoot 50%. 15 to 17 feet. I'm gonna shoot 50%. I can go left elbow, right elbow, and if you come out and close out, you try to close out on her, you can't stop her. I mean, that's the thing, because once you close out, she goes up. Next thing you know, she's going down, got the ball on the floor, and Becky's opening up windows. I mean, the windows that she has to go in and score are tremendous. I mean, you got to understand, nobody's gonna touch that. You got all the guard play that's pushing it. I mean, you got some of the best guards you can put on the floor. I mean, let's be honest. You got Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and Jackie Young. Okay, that's a 1, 2, 3 that you can run with. And then you got Asia Wilson. Well, if you're worried about them, you're never going to stop Asia Wilson. And if you worry about stopping Asia Wilson, you're never going to stop them. So it's a two-headed, three-headed, four-headed, five-headed monster. And they're not ready to peak as Becky Hammon's running that ship. She's not going to peak it in the season. Just when you start to close out everything. And I tell you, Becky Hammon's like Floyd Mayweather. So, you know, she's got game plan put in. It's done right, correctly. And they're going to take away what you do good. That's the Floyd Mayweather way that Becky Hammon coaches, right? It's defense. If I can take away what you do good and force you to do something else, then she knows she's going to win the ballgame. Now, is she a grinder? Absolutely. I mean, Becky's well beyond the point of being nice. Okay, when you're dealing with Asia Wilson, you don't have to be nice because Asia Wilson just accepts the challenge. Okay, because Becky puts it on it. But you got to understand, when you're playing for Becky Hammon, man, there ain't no breaks. There's fun, but there ain't no cup of coffee because if you don't do your job, she's going to put it out there that you didn't do your job. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's not time for them to peak, but they're going to be peaking soon. But I'll tell you this, as long as you have, and this is a simple statement, but as long as you sit in there with Asia Wilson, and I'll say it plainer than plain, you sit in there with Asia Wilson, you're going to win some games night in and night out. You're not going to lose them, but she is more than talented. And as you get ready to watch her, pretty much unstoppable unless somebody steps in there and decides they want to stop her. I don't know the other answer for that, but it is what it is, and it's part of the game, and that's what you got to look at. You can never move this along. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast, but we always say that this thing is getting better and better and better. And when it gets better and better and better, it gives everybody a golden opportunity to get done what they need to get done. And that's the beauty of the WNBA. And you got the showdowns going to go back on. It's going to get in there tonight. Caitlinclark, it's going to get another bite at the apple. But that's a big apple to chew on. You talking about Asia Wilson, how good is she? Better than anybody else in the league. You talk about her conditioning and what can she do as Caitlin understand it. She's just like, you know what? She's dominating, and that's the name of the game. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. We're bringing it to you just like we're supposed to, and we're talking about the WNBA. That's right. The WNBA is fantastic. All things are possible to those who believe, and you keep marching, we'll keep climbing, and we'll get better so you'll go higher and higher. And we'll see you soon. Money Mike, Syndicated Radio Podcast. Game time.